Salute to everybody in the building. Hit that like button as you come on in. Misfits Boxing had an event out there in Dubai. And yeah, it was definitely some misfitted boxing we seen tonight. Oh man, some pretty sloppy boxing, right? From Tony Ferguson fight on, from Dean the Great and Armando Vargas. Just a whole bunch of sloppy boxing. And yeah, Andrew Tate went up against Chase Demoor. Never heard of Chase Demoor at all before, ever in life. Never heard of him. But yeah, he was in there with Andrew Tate. And salute to everybody in the building. You say you watched it for free, you want your money back. It was terrible, absolutely terrible. Right? It was really really bad. The whole just everything was bad. The mismatch between Dean the Great and Armando Vargas. I mean, Dean the Great showed some good skills, but dude was just way too big for him, just way too big. And I'm surprised Dean the Great made it through the fight. Right? I'm surprised he made it through the fight. Tony Ferguson fought the mechanic in a slugfest war type of fight. I mean, if you like those type of fights, then it was your cup of tea. And then Andrew Tate went up in there and, against Chase Demoor. I don't know what we were expecting. Oh, Andrew Tate lost. He lost the majority decision. It really should have been unanimous, but really they both should have lost because it was such a terrible, ugly, sloppy, disgusting fight. It was terrible. I mean, you could expect that from the 5-year layoff Andrew Tate, but he looked bad. All that cigar smoking and riding on yachts and partying. You can't just hop in the ring after 4 months of training and go 6 rounds, bro. You just can't go 6 rounds after just you've been chilling as an almost 40-year-old man that's rich as shit. Hop in the ring after 4 months of training, you gonna look like shit, bro. You look like shit in there against a dude that look like shit. You know, Chase Demoor is one of the worst. If he's they said this guy was a champion. They said this dude was a champion. A champion of what? Champion of what? Who has he been beating on this whole time looking like that? No, Tate haven't fought in like 5 years or something like that. Look, I'm not really knocking Tate. I didn't, me personally, I didn't expect him to look good because I know what it is. But I honestly kind of did expect him to kind of knock this dude out because I did see how dude looked prior to the fight, and he's probably one of the worst looking dudes I've ever seen in the ring before. Honestly, he's one of the worst looking guys I've ever seen in the ring. That shit was terrible, and Tate just didn't really make it look no better. He made dude look. I mean, it was a terrible fight. Terrible fight. It goes to show you that kickboxing isn't boxing. His hands was really low the whole time. He didn't really transition from the kickboxing, his unorthodox style of fighting, to boxing, where you got to keep your hands up. I think if Andrew Tate kept his hands up and just used a consistent jab, he would have had an easier time with this dude. This dude was a total bum. A total bum. And really, you know what? Let me dial it back some. Because now that I'm thinking about it, Andrew Tate got over 85 kickboxing fights. He's a champion in kickboxing, etc. He should have still beat this fucking dude. I'm sorry. He should have still beat him, without the kicks or not. He should have beat this dude. Guess what? He was too focused on kicks throughout his whole kickboxing career that he has no hands when it's time to throw them hands. Andrew Tate lost the fight, for those who just coming in. He lost via majority decision. Via majority decision, man. Andrew Tate just look, man. I like the top G, but this boxing, you didn't you can't train for 4 months after riding in Bugattis and corn sex and having yachts and smoking cigars and all this stuff, and then train for 4 months to fight a dude 10 years younger than you, that's naturally bigger than you, and then try to fight 6 fucking rounds. 3 rounds is hard enough at 2 minutes, let alone 6 3-minute rounds, bro. So this is why we got this piss poor fight between two dudes that had no stamina after 3 rounds, because that's all he had in him was 3 rounds. Anybody with a boxing brain knew that this fight wasn't going to look good after 3 rounds. It was going to be a sloppy, sloppy mess. You said where's the clips? Man, copyrights, man. Copyrights. It wasn't nothing to really watch, bro. To be honest. I would. Normally I do have the clips, but it was nothing to really. I mean, it was ugly, man. It was really ugly. It was nothing pretty. It was a lot of holding. It was just a lot of it was nothing pretty. Nothing to take away from it. And I like to take away everything from a fight. I couldn't take away nothing other than the fact that there was a lot of holding going on. A lot of holding, a lot of just sloppies, just really sloppy stuff, man. Just really, really sloppy. Really, really sloppy. Hit that like button for your boy, man. Really sloppy night for the Andrew Tate. He really could have just left this alone. He really didn't need to do this. Now people go pull up the clips of him getting beat up by this dude now. You know, he didn't really need to do this. Get up in there with this dude. This dude was a total bum, though. He was a total bum. You know, wide, really, really wide uppercuts. You know, nothing. Just it was no good. No jabs. No, just no. It was just an ugly fight, man. You know, if you guys come in here for the clips, I'm sorry, but it's not worthy of getting no clips. It was just, you're gonna see it on Twitter. It was really ugly. It's really sloppy. You know, yeah, it was too tired. You said Tate didn't even know how. Tate had nothing outside of the jab to the body. That's the main thing that he was using in the fight was the jab to the body, and it really just wasn't. It just wasn't enough, man. I figured he could have hurt this dude. This dude was a bum. You know, he was a super bum. Like Tate really still should have beat this guy. Honestly, if Tate was really as good as kickboxing as as I'm gonna be honest, I never really heard of Andrew Tate back when I was kickboxing and stuff. I never really heard of dude, but if he is really as good as they say with 85 fucking fights, he should have been there. He should have knocked this dude out in 2 rounds. Just for some little sneaky tricks that he may have learned. But guess what? His style of kickboxing was totally different from anything close to boxing. It's not like a Dutch style of kickboxing where it's kind of similar to boxing still. The boxing punches still. Nah, he got some karate shit going on, but he ain't really throwing no punches. And he got in there with a ring with the dude. His arms felt like he had fucking 20 pounds extra on his arms because he didn't know how to throw punches for real. Just a really tough, just a really ugly fight, man. And Chase Demoor won. And the judges took a long time to tally up that. They tried to low key rob Tate, not Tate, but Chase. They tried to rob him. You know what I'm saying? But they couldn't do it, man, because Andrew Tate was looking too beat up after the fight. He got a cut. You know, it was just a really ugly performance from Andrew Tate, man. But I still rock for Tate. You know, but he's too old to be fighting now. You know what I'm saying? He's just too old. He can't do it no more. It's over with, dog. You know what I'm saying? Hey, oh yeah, Demoor is way worse than Rolly, bro. Demoor, I don't even know. They say he's like on a 10 fight streak or some shit, and he's the heavyweight champion of Misfits boxing, and he's doing. I'm like, bro, who the hell did this guy? Man, he's terrible, bro. Yeah, very, very bad. Very, very, very bad. I've seen. I mean, this was some horrible display of boxing. You know, the kid Deen the Great looked a lot better than both of them, and he only got 6 fights, and he's like an influencer. He's not even a real fight. Deen the Great actually got some fucking skills, but he was just in there with the aggressive Armando kid, and he was way bigger. He's the only person that actually looked like they had some skills tonight. Honestly, out of everybody else seen, he the only one that looked like they had some real boxing skills. Everybody else looked like they were just in there brawling. You said Wooly would mop him? Nah, Tate didn't quit, man. He didn't quit. He didn't quit because he was tired after the third round. I knew he was gonna be tired after the third round because all he had left in him. He smoking shit, man. You know what I'm saying? You only got good 3 rounds in you, bro, and you only been training for 4 months. Ah, man. Nah, man, you be smoking cigars and shit, and you just expect to train a hard 4 months and expect to go 6 rounds. Okay, A lot harder than you thought it was. Tell you that. A lot harder than you thought it was going to be, Mr. Tate. But I still rock with Tate. You know what I'm saying? I get it. It's tough. You ain't been in the ring in a while. In your head, you can still do it. You think you still look good, but when you get in there and do it, it's a totally different thing. Not to mention you're there with a younger guy with less years on him, less experience, but less years of bullshit, less years of partying, less years of having sex, less years of just all these vices and smoking and shit, right? So yeah, he went out there and tried to do it, but he just couldn't get it done. You say, yay, Chase won. You said the match was staged? I don't think they would stage Andrew Tate to lose, bro. That's kind of something they mentioned after the fight. Well, people had the doubts going in that this thing was rigged. No, they wouldn't let Andrew Tate just lose like that. He was the star of the show, and you heard everybody cheering for him. So they just couldn't rob Chase because Chase clearly won the fight. Andrew Tate just didn't do enough. Now, if Andrew Tate landed some glaring shots, they probably would have just gave it to Tate because it was a terrible fight. All he had to do was land some good shots. There was, you know, eye catching. The crowd was already on his side, but that's how it goes. He was tired as hell. You said Rumble Premium? Yeah, it was on Rumble Premium. I don't know how they expected the masses to know about Rumble Premium. You know, you said Andrew took one round, round one, and then round two was a draw, and Chase started playing Presley. Yeah, yeah, he at least tried, bro, but he was tired, man. He really got tired, bro. He really got tired. He got tired as hell up in there. You said I regret buying Rumble. Come on, man, Misfits boxing. You should have known it was gonna be bad. Yep, Andrew Tate, man. Didn't really deliver. I think he's more upset probably at how he performed. He know he looked like shit. And he's a guy who seems to really um yeah, he's probably more pissed that he looked like shit than he actually lost the fight. You know what I'm saying? He looked like shit. He looked really bad. He looked really, really bad in there. Yeah, Chase won the fight for people who was just coming in. Chase won the fight. You said Chase won and survived, but Tate lost and gave more belief to others achieving that there's a win regardless of the outcome. And Chase showed a lot of heart, man. Tate showed a lot of heart. He was dog tired in there. He wasn't. Tate just all he had to do was keep his hands up. His hands was criminally low. Very, very low for boxing. Just very low. He wasn't moving around. He was standing straight up, chin straight up. He was kind of, he went back to once the fatigue set in, his natural instincts of that kickboxer set in. He wasn't conditioned to be that boxer yet, to where his hands just stand up and he's standing in a lower stance. It just wasn't natural. It just wasn't natural. He went back to that kickboxing bullshit and he started looking like shit up in there. Against a dude who was just absolutely just, oh my goodness, one of the worst. Just oh my goodness, I didn't see no jabs from this guy. I don't even know what. Only punches he threw was these crazy wide, ugly uppercuts that wasn't really anything. Just some cartoon type punches and shit. Like just nothing really. Yeah, man. So it was a really bad fight. You know, terrible night, man. You said Tate won. Nah, he didn't win, man. He didn't win. They tried to give it to him too. They tried their best to get it to Andrew Tate, but they couldn't get it to him, man. They couldn't get it to him. They couldn't rob dude like that. Tate looking really bad in there. Body language is everything, man. Body language is that means a lot when it comes to these fights for the guys who may be in here that don't know nothing about fighting. Body language means a lot. And Andrew Tate was falling all over the place, and he looked like he wasn't in a fight. He looked like he wasn't going to get back into the fight, and it would be hard for them to give him the fight in the end. So they had to give to the bum Chase Demoor, who now he'll say he beat Top G. Andrew Tate was one of the most notorious men in the world for the past few years, right? Pretty notorious out there. Andrew Tate. Chase Demoor got the victory over him, beat him up. Could say he beat up on Andrew Tate. Chase to go ahead and work as and one of Andrew Tate's bodyguards. Get the bag off Tate. You know what I'm saying? Get the bag off him. Tate damn near a billionaire. Some shit like that. So go ahead, work as a bodyguard. You know what I'm saying? You beat up on the Top G. Looking really sloppy in there. Very, very sloppy. You said he boxes like a drunk Anthony Joshua. Tate lost, man. Tate lost. Salute to Hollow Ninja for the super chat. He says, shit up boxing till eternity. That's right, bro. We here. And we talking about Misfits boxing. Misfits boxing. I was impressed with Deen the Great, though. I was impressed with Deen the Great. I never heard of him. I never heard of any of this stuff. But Deen the Great, I was pretty impressed, despite the significant size difference in his fight against Armando Vargas. Now, I don't appreciate the trash talk about the moms and all that. I don't get down like that. But, he went in there, he stood his ground with a much, much, much bigger guy. And he showed a lot of heart, against a much bigger guy coming from a boxing family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But other than that, man, it was a pretty sloppy night of fighting. Pretty sloppy night of fighting. You said Deen is 29? Yeah, Demoor is 29? Yeah. I'm surprised. I almost thought Tate was going to get knocked out. The way he has his chin up and all that, he holds his chin up. The way his stance is just terrible. He has almost like a taekwondo-like stance. And he tried to, it just doesn't work for boxing, dude. You got to keep that chin tucked, bro. You said Tate is still young. I mean, 39, 40 is not necessarily young. I mean, old, but it's not necessarily young either. You know? It's not old, but it's not really young either. It's like right in the middle. You said I'm trying to be just like Tate. I don't know, man. Tate just kind of hung in there and survived, in my opinion. After the third round, he was just in there just off sheer will alone. And I'm not about to lay down and let this dude have me memed, knocked out all over the internet. That's what Tate was doing. He was trying to land a big right, overhand right at times, but it just wasn't really. He had no steam on it, and he couldn't really get nothing clean off on dude. It seemed like he could have really knocked this guy out, but nah, didn't do it. You said Edis Landy is 42 and still a champion. Well, Edis Landy is a world-class boxer who don't be sitting back riding on yachts and smoking cigars and stuff, you know? And a very disciplined guy. I can't say Jake Paul's fight was rigged because he sat there and got a broken jaw. And if you've seen the photos of Jake's broken jaw, yeah, you can't, you're not sitting there faking that shit. I'm sorry. Dude's whole teeth was rearranged in his mouth. It looked crazy. Like you gotta get permission to look at the photo. It's so graphic, So yeah, I take my hat off to Jake Paul. Whether the outcome was preordained or scripted, he definitely took that fucking punch from Anthony Joshua. That's one thing for sure. He took that punch from Anthony Joshua. But yeah, Tate lost, man. You see the title, Andrew Tate loses boxing debut against Chase Demoor. You bet 2 grand on Tate. Why would you do that? Oh my goodness. I mean, I know Demoor was a bum. Demoor was one of the worst looking fighters I've seen. That's fighting on pay-per-view or whatever. I never seen that shit look terrible. But I would have never put 2 bands on this type of fight, bro. apparently AJ and Paul made like 92 million or something crazy, but you know they be overflating them numbers sometimes. I don't know if Tate is gonna be. I mean, will Tate be embarrassed? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm not knocking him because I get it. You know, dude felt like he still got it. He still feel like he got it, and he simply just don't got it no more. You know what I'm saying? It takes balls to get in the ring anyway. You know, and almost at any level, it takes really balls to get in there and fight somebody on any level. So I didn't expect too much from this. My expectations wasn't really high, but I did kind of expect him to kind of possibly stop this dude, knock him out. Because Chase Demoor just the highlights I've seen the dude was just some of the worst highlights I've ever seen. Hey man, stop spamming in the chat, bro. Hey, where the admins at? Man, go ahead and slow this dude down, spamming. Jesus, had to block this dude. But yeah, man, Andrew Tate, you know, he tried. You know, I'm not one to kick a guy when he, you know, take a L or nothing like that. I understand how this shit goes. I understand the risks that a guy like him took in taking such a fight with the risk of embarrassment and all the controversy that he may have caused over the years. So I get it. You know what I'm saying? But the warrior part of me understands, like, look, man, you go get in there, sometimes you win, sometimes you go fucking lose. You know what I'm saying? He went in there and lost. Now he lost against a bum, but you know, it is what it is, man. But yeah, man, salute to everybody in the building. Hit that like button for your boy. Andrew Tate loses his boxing debut against the unheralded Chase Demoor by majority decision. Catch you guys on the next one. Hit that like button. Peace out.